Welcome to Manscaped for making this episode of Secret Friends Unite possible. Go to manscaped.com, use code SFU, and get 20% off and worldwide free shipping. Thank you, Manscaped. And now on with the show.
Secret Friends Unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast, episode 405. This is your guide to the geek side. And you're listening to the podcast version, but why not get all of the podcasts for Secret Friends Unite with our network feed? Get Holocron Chronicles for all things Star Wars, Code 47 for all things Star Trek, Co-op Mode for all things video game, and then also this podcast you're listening now, which is all things geek. When you're done listening, go watch us on YouTube at Secret Friends Unite on our YouTube channel. Search that name and you'll find it right there. You'll get our faces in more places, our backgrounds, our reactions, and sometimes props. So there you go. Subscribe, comment, and, let us know what you love about Secret Friends Unite. So with that, I am one of your hosts, Todd Oxtra from beautiful Savage, Minnesota, joined by Charlie Carden.
From beautiful East Grand Rapids, Michigan. East Grand Rapids. It was a busy weekend. We had our last event of the year for the fan club. It was a film festival, Todd, that I was telling you about, based around the works of the late Doug Trumbull, who passed away earlier this year, but was responsible for films like Blade Runner, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and did I say the third kind? Was it the first kind? What's the name of that movie? My God, I'm drawing a blank. The Steven Spielberg film.
Yes.
Close Encounters.
Yes. Close Encounters of the third kind. I'm not sure what the first and the second are. Man and Beast.
I have to watch the movie again, I guess. Yeah. Must have been. And then, I was going to say Jaws, Blade Runner. No, not Jaws. But Star Trek the Motion Picture, and that was kind of how we got involved, the chapter got involved. And we sat in on a great screening where a lot of the producers were there. They would actually stop the film in 3-act increments, and then they would talk and play some behind-the-scenes kind of footage and stuff. So it was super cool. But gobbled up all my time, and I had this to record, and I had code to record. But I am here now, settled back down to earth.
Very exciting. Yeah, it was a very chill weekend. We've got more coming up with holiday celebrations and such. We're very excited for the next couple weekends. It's going to be very fun. I only have 1 week left of work, and then I'm out for the new year. So That'll be very fun. Yeah, we're very excited for that. And my mother's coming to visit. So, but enough about that. Something we're really excited about is this cover. I selected it. It's Marvel Chillers featuring Tigra, the Werewoman, guest starring Red Wolf. It's the big blazing battle-ish. Nothing you can do can stop the Rat Pack from crushing you, you fool, says this man with a machine gun.
It's not.
And then in the caption in the caption below it says, "Don't dare peek at our shocking final page." And I didn't. So I guess it's a mystery to be held. And the fact is, Charlie, did you ever consider Tigra a werewoman?
No, I was going to say Once Upon a Werewoman because I love that we came up with the Once Upon a Werewolf. I dropped that on Holocron. Mark loved that. Our guests loved that. So I'm going to try to work it into every conversation I can. She never was. Tigra was obviously Greer Nelson, a feminist and a journalist, if I remember correctly, from the 1970s. She was the cat. She wore the same outfit as Hellcat for a while, and then gave it to Patsy Walker, and Patsy Walker was Hellcat, if I remember correctly. Tiger got these
dry cleaned it.
Oh boy, especially since it's leotard. Yuck.
Kitty litter.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Greer Nelson got the amulet that holds together her bikini, which also has big spikes on the waistline.
No, the claws.
Oh, okay. Anyway, ouch. And then became a real cat. And then later on, she was a member of the Avengers and the West Coast Avengers. She never really was a creature, as I understand it. So maybe there's, maybe I did a little bit of research here, but yeah, kind of a lot going on this. They have what do they call these bad guys? They're the Rat Pack.
The Rat Pack.
I don't see Dino or Sammy or Frank. That is not the Rat Pack.
No, there's no singing involved or drinking of martinis. Just lots of high-powered weapons, and there's no dress code. Apparently, you can go sleeveless. You can wear a big beard and long hair. You can wear a mask.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I kind of want to I kind of want to see that shocking final page. So Todd, we might have to rotate this one onto the list of the this upcoming segment that we were talking
Yeah,
about.
it
That
was
might involve
25
James Conner.
cents. It was still only 25 cents. So I assume this is a like mid to late 70s.
Right. 25 cents was early to mid 70s, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it went early 60s, 10 cents to 12 to 15 to 20 to 25. So that would probably put this in like 70, anything between 73 and 75. So around the time you were born at the latest, probably.
Yeah.
And then,
And my mom didn't buy it for me. So shame on you, Mom.
Oh man, yeah, terrible. Oh my goodness. But yes, I am without a doubt intrigued as to what happens on the shocking final page. My goodness. Someone who is always super great at keeping us on our toes, that would be the where octogenarian. No, what do you call somebody who's 122? 120. So centenarian?
There's not really one. It's not like the sesquicentennial or anything like
Yes,
that.
exactly.
It's essentially 20 if you are looking for the yes, exactly.
But we are talking about Madam Webb. She's our number one news correspondent with her flip phone at age 122, down at the corner of Hollywood and Vine, getting ready to bring us the hottest scoops out there. Let's go get them.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's rumors and news. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. I assume, Madam Webb, you are starting to get all of your holiday shopping in. You don't use Amazon, you use Mississippi.com. I don't know what you buy there. It might come by the Mississippi River. Like it's all like it's all like boats of various sizes, and essentially it's probably things they found on the Mississippi. So we're talking like crawdads, trout, buckets full of junk, and potentially maybe mob bodies from
right.
We don't know. So
a head. Human hand.
Yeah, I mean, I know you were the sole investor into Mississippi.com, but
oh boy,
bad decisions, mistakes.
Great business opportunity, but what is a stellar business opportunity? And what I dubbed in our show notes is "and water is wet." Is that the producer Joseph Kosinski, director of Top Gun Maverick, Joseph Kosinski, is saying that there is gas in the tank for a potential third film. Oh, really? What a hot
jet
take.
Fuel in the tank left over.
Oh my God. I mean, as everybody knows by now, and as we talked about quite a bit on this show, as everybody knows by now, Top Gun Maverick, which was the long overdue, didn't know you needed it, sequel to 1986's Top Gun, destroyed box office records throughout 3 quarters of 2022. It's just now winding down its run in the theater. It's coming to Paramount Plus in, I think, later this month, probably right around Christmas. And yeah, it just absolutely blew things away. And Todd, you were the one who said, I always love this expression because I can never really determine. You said it touched the 4 quadrants that people go to see movies. So what are the 4 quadrants? Let's break it down for all time.
Kids, parents, elderly, and mainstream. Essentially, it's like you're hitting like people that will watch like anything. Then you're hitting like all different age groups because it's very healthy. I'm trying to think if there's a different like men, like all genders too. I think is the other one. So
in some ways, the quadrants are just your basic demographic side. Like I worked in radio, and you're like, well, we need males 18 to 24, or we need, women from blah, blah, blah to this thing and that. And that's our prime target for this business and this bracket and what we're going after. So, and it's funny you should say that about the elderly, because I love my dad, but he's over 70. To me, that makes him elderly. We saw the first Top Gun with him when I was 10 years old, and my dad is a Navy vet, and all he could do was make fun of how stupid it was, because it was, you know how it is with you military types in movies when you get a burr in your saddle. Well, that's
he didn't do that right.
Yeah, exactly.
Blah, 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 blah.
That was my dad. However, that being said, checked in with him this year. My dad is 72. And he's like, Mike, you know what? He's mellowed in, 35 years. Man, I thought that movie was a lot of fun. And blah. I'm like, Dad, you hated the first Top Gun. You couldn't stop bitching about it. Well, it's a movie. That's what he said this time around. And he's right. And I love the pitch movie, which just pretty much says, well, this is just basically the Death Star sequence from Star Wars, because they got to go along a long trench and up a thing, and they got to drop bombs in a thing that's 2 meters wide.
And pull up, Luke.
And pull up Luke, exactly.
Yes.
And you're right. The movie was a ton of fun. I did not end up going to see it a second time, but it was either you or John went and saw it more than once. Isn't that right?
No, it was John. John definitely went, because I think he might have seen it by himself, and then he wanted to see it with the kids, and he wanted to see in a specific format. So, which is exactly what Hollywood wants you to do: see it multiple times, see it in the theaters.
That's where it's at, because most films will come out, and we're familiar with your standard, week 1 to week 2 drop is like 40% or whatever it is. Or if it's really, if it's over 40 to 60%, you're in trouble, because those numbers usually they'll always go down, but it's about how far they fall and how fast. Yeah. And this one really held on, because again, you're touching all the quadrants. So anyway,
and Charlie, an update to the 4 quadrants. I'm smarter about this now.
By all means.
It's females under 25, males under 25. So there's 2 quadrants there. And then got this: females over 25 and males over 25. Very simple. I made it more difficult. Yes. It's like kids, teens, middle-aged, and elderly of all genders.
So over 25 is elderly? Oh, God.
Yeah, apparently, it's like you got, because there's kids' audience is a small demographic.
Yeah.
Right? You got the kids and teens, which each of those demographics is, you put them together with like college age, and then you get to everybody over that. So it's very weird, but it's also by male, because, like female, like female romantic coms are probably like, they maybe have 1 quadrant, maybe they pull in males over 25. Right. So it's like a 2 quadrant film at best.
That's hilarious, because we were walking out of the grocery store. April and I had to stop and grab a quick bite after the event tonight. And then I came home and had to record code. And then I'm recording this. We had to grab a bite at the deli at D&W, which is the local grocery store. And she's walking out and she says, that thing says something about seniors being 55 plus. And that's not cool, because we're about ready to turn 47. She and I were like, we're not almost seniors. That sucks.
Don't worry. AARP will sign you up as soon as you're like 22. They want to get everybody.
I've told you, when I turned 40, my mother signed me up for AARP, like junior or something. I'm like, why? Why? I'm like, first of all, good thing you did it for me and not my brother, because he would have torn you a new one. But she's like, well, you get a lot of great discounts and stuff.
They find you anyways, Charlie. Whether your mom did or you didn't, they find you, because I think I've been on their list since I've been like 39 for some reason. Yeah, right. Like, I know I may act old, right? But I don't feel that old. Oh well. It is interesting, but to your point, this feels like Top Gun Maverick is the rarity. It is not the rule. It was
the unicorn. It wasn't. Wait. It was the unicorn, like on my wife's coffee cup that I'm finishing her coffee.
It's not like Karate Kid, where it's like there's multiple movies and things where you can like, oh, we're going to visit the 3rd movie. There was 1 Top Gun film. There was a cast of characters. They've hit all of those cast of characters, unless they bring back Kelly McGillis or they bring back Meg Ryan. That's about it.
Right.
Tom Skerritt is like,
God, is he still alive?
I think he's retired, not dead. But I mean, beyond that, everybody else is old. They already hit on Iceman. And then after that, it's Miles Teller's show, because Maverick got his redemption story. There's nothing else for him to do. He's too old. He can't go on a mission anymore. All these other things. So I'm like thinking, do people really want to see Miles Teller, who I felt like was the least interesting thing of that film, and he's already covered his daddy issues. So I'm like,
So they just kind of be buds and go out. Maybe they're civilians now, but they're still like get their hands on a fighter jet. Yeah, it's like, what are they going? It's going to turn into Iron Eagle, because I get the feeling if they go back, which we talked about a lot last week.
Charlie, he's going to try to find his F-14 Timecat, and that's like his mission. Oh, we found out Iran has my F-14. We're going in. We're stealing.
Oh my God.
We're getting the mystery machine and going to get it. I don't know.
I just don't. I feel like it's like leave well enough alone. How are they going to go back and nail it again? I don't know. But again, neither you, John, or I, when we were doing our movie wager, thought that this wouldn't even be in the top 5. Absolutely annihilated everything else, and all the Marvel movies and the animated films that we thought we were going to do great did not. So we just absolutely did not know. So yeah, we've got to consider things, kind of quadrant based, I guess, from now on. So We'll play it in the quadrants from now on. So
Yeah.
anyway, moving on. Oh my God, how did I miss that? I don't think I missed this trailer, but I don't think I got around to watching it. But Todd, go ahead. I blabbed my way through making fun of Top Gun, so you can have this fun.
Apparently, Charlie has jumped the shark and gone past the Accolade story. So we'll cover the Gen V trailer first, and then we'll get to the Accolade. So I had my teaser, folks.
My tabs out of alignment as usual.
Yes, that's a teaser, folks. Charlie typically opens all the tabs, and that just throws everything up. But we are both fans of The Boys, and The Boys, we're just blown away from all the other seasons. They've had one spinoff, which is just segments in a cartoon format called Diabolical. Right. I enjoyed it. I definitely recommend you watch it, Charlie, because they're very short.
Yes, I haven't got around to it. Yeah.
The second spinoff, which is tied directly to the show, which is called Gen V. It's essentially, think about, this is how young heroes are found, trained, and essentially brought into Godolvinkin University, a school for the next generation of superhero under the control of Avoid International. A trailer was dropped. It says, welcome to Godolkin University, a safe space for you to thrive. This is the first look at the spinoff. And the cast, I won't go through all the cast. I'll call out the notables. So Jazz Sinclair and Chance Perdome are the two leads, it looks like. They're both from Sabrina, which is kind of cool because I recognize them. One girl of color. She plays a cool character as a supporting character, Witch in Sabrina. And then Chance Perdome, very cool guy, British accent. He plays a major lead in that. But then we've got some other characters that are interesting. We've got Patrick Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. Which he doesn't look at all like Arnie. He looks more like Maria Shriver, which is fine.
For better, for worse.
Yep, exactly.
Sean Patrick Thomas is young Indiana Jones, isn't he? Or did I get the wrong guy?
No, you're saying Sean Thomas Flattery. No, this is a different dude. No, this is I'm trying to remember where he's from. He's from something else, young man. We got Clancy Brown. I love Clancy Brown.
Love him.
He's fantastic. He's such a great actor. Then we got Jason Ritter, who's phenomenal as well. He is also new to the cast. Interesting to see what his role will be. And then we've got some supporting characters from The Boys proper, Jesse T. Usher, A-Train, Colby Minifee, the public affairs lead, kind of crazy. And then we've got PJ Byrne, which I wasn't familiar with the character. He plays, I think he plays maybe a person from Vought that I'm just not very familiar with. I looked him up, didn't look familiar.
Okay.
But we don't have a release date yet. Hopefully this is a 2023 because I'm not sure we're going to get a Boys season 4 anytime soon.
Yeah, I haven't heard a peep. Yeah, so this is it.
It looks pretty gory. We've gotten the trailer that's dropped. We've got puppets, like you mentioned, Charlie.
My God, what the hell? And they're alive puppets, and one of them gets their head torn off, and you see intestines flying around and like a spinal cord, and it's just in true Boys fashion. It's just gore. Like splatter, serious gore, blood everywhere. Definite red band trailer. Just like the entire show is very red band. So
and it's Amazon Prime. So I mean, we're used to this, and they don't back down from it. And I think it's got to be, since the Rings of Power, it's probably Amazon's premiere series with The Boys. So it's kind of cool to see them grow this. I don't know if any of this is coming from the comics. So I don't know if this is just new, but it's kind of an evergreen property because they can continue to bring in things, add storylines, and I believe the creator of The Boys, he has no problem creating more spin-offs and doing more of this content. So I love it.
Right. But it's a cool concept, and they can keep twisting and turning it. So I was trying to remember if A-Train, did he die off in season 3?
No.
Okay.
He came back. He came back. Yeah, I thought he was dead because I thought that was how he was going to end his story, but no,
I was trying to figure out if this was a prequel. Well, good. And it'd be awesome, obviously, if this spins off, and then you're right, this could be the launching board to continue the other show. So I'm fired up about that. I have loved The Boys, and again, I was late to the party. We started watching it with season 2, and we were just absolutely sucked in.
Yeah.
So just absolutely gobbled up. So this should be fun. So no date announced, but I get the feeling we'll see it sooner rather than later. So, Todd, you should talk about Star Wars because you love Star Wars. So go
Yeah,
ahead.
and like I said, I'm just burned out on anything pre A New Hope. I really
Yeah.
don't care about that era of about 30 years where it's like, oh, it's rebellion, it's Clone Wars, that kind of, I don't need any more of that. So I was asking questions about this because I believe this dropped. Mark put this out, or somebody dropped this out.
It was me.
And basically, yeah. So the Acolyte is coming, and this is asked the clarifying question: is this set in the High Republic? So this is a prequel to the prequels, but it's far enough back. It's 100 to 200 years before.
I think, and I should know because I'm on a Star Wars podcast, and Mark and I did some of the High Republic stuff, like the comics when they first came out, and I believe the span is 200 years, and you did get in the first. It's funny, when the comics came out, I thought it was a miniseries, but it's ongoing. But in the first issue, Yoda gets a cameo, and it's just Yoda 200 years younger, and he's got like a different part in his hair, so he's got more hair. He kind of looks like John Travolta with gray hair. He does have hair. I remember.
Oh my God,
that.
Scoop!
I know, Scoop, big Scoop. Yeah, but no, it's been an ongoing series, and it's a comic series, and it's a novel series, and this is plugged within. But yeah, we've got a first look of some stills, but really nothing necessarily about the plot line. But anyway.
Yeah, and I'm intrigued by this because I have enjoyed prequels when they are far enough out of the scope. Like we had the House of Dragons, and now we have the Rings of Power. I enjoy both of them because they're so far away that it's like there's a lot of stuff I don't know, and all those people are dead anyway, so they can have cool stories, and it doesn't impact what I already know. I enjoy, or it could be like a precursor to something that will come eventually that I don't know. So I love this.
Right.
It's this is what's going to make Star Wars grow and get new audiences, because people don't have to feel like they have had to read or watched 85,000 things. I like this. This is when the era of the Jedi and the Republic was at its peak. This is pre-Sith, right?
This is at the, and I believe it's supposed to really introduce the concept of the Sith, but this is at the tail end of the peak.
Okay.
As it starts to decline, because when we meet the Jedi in episode 1, they are years away from their destruction, and they become complacent, they become somewhat corrupt, and it was a rogue or a dirty Jedi that commissioned the Count Dooku was a Jedi who turned, but then he hired this other dude, Sifo-Dyas, to orchestrate the clone army. So yeah.
They became essentially a pawn of a political party, which they were never meant to be. Totally get that. Now, this is cool because we do have some pictures of this. I'm not sure when the series will debut, but this is kind of what I've been waiting for. Something different that is not something we're familiar. It's not the Filoniverse. It's based on this new batch of content, which is cool. I'm glad that they're finally doing something with it beyond a novel or a comic, because only so many people are going to read that. And we got some good, cool pictures. So we've got Lee Jung-jae. He is from Squid Game, which is pretty cool. So he's one of the pictures. So he looks to be a Jedi as well. Then we get Amandla Stenbergs. That's who he plays, is her former Jedi Master. Then we're getting some other cool pictures, which would be Daphne Keane, which has got a cool look.
X-23 from Logan. Yeah.
Oh,
isn't that her?
Cool. And then I think so. And then she's got like almost like cornrows with different colors. And she looks pretty cool, and different variations of the Jedi wardrobe. Then we've got Dean Charles Chapman as a Jedi Padawan. He's got that curly fro that we love so much. And Charlie,
the traditional outfit.
The top thing has got to be the Wookiee with the top knot.
I know. Top knot man bun Wookiee. He's
with
almost
got
he's almost got kind of a it looks like Chewbacca's thing. But he's also wearing, Wookiees are weird with their clothes. Like Chewbacca wears no clothes, and this guy's wearing like basically a jumper or a skirt of some kind.
Exactly.
Basically Wookiee activewear. So, but again, if they don't wear, I'm not really understanding the whole clothes thing with Wookiee, or why he needs a purse, but whatever. Or it's a satchel like Indiana Jones.
And we've got some pictures of a ship, of a transport of some sort. We've got 2 actresses who are also photographed wielding similar weapons, assumed to be Daphne Keane, walking alongside a woman who assume is playing a Zabrak, which is lots of spikes and things.
That's the same. There was a couple
Darth
of
Maul.
Jedi that, Darth Maul.
Yeah,
Darth Maul and one of the other Jedi on the council that gets whacked by Palpatine right as he and before he and Mace Windu go at it. So this is great. How did they
get these pictures out?
Probably some weirdo in a tree, like from 2 miles away. I don't know. Oh
He
my
didn't kill
God.
them. He shot them with he destroyed their privacy.
You know what? It's funny. Scroll down. This is from StarWarsNewsNet.com, which is a pretty common one. But very first comment looks like another woke POS. Oh my God.
Oh
Star
God.
Wars
There's
fans.
women in this. There's people of color in this. Oh my God.
At
How
least
dare they?
at least the very next comment echoes exactly what you said. This looks very much different from everything we've seen before in live action. Which, again, Andor very different. Mandalorian captured everybody's attention. Boba Fett not so much. But this is, again, like you said, down the back, much like House of Dragons is a great example. Rings of Power, I've never been a Lord of the Rings guy, so it didn't catch me, but I do obviously like blah, 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 Game of Thrones, which is why the dragons really caught me. So this is great. It does say 2024, which makes sense. Yeah, because 2023 is going to be Mando, and then maybe Ahsoka and Bad Batch, which I know nobody really cares about on this stream, though I have some people.
Bad Batch is in January, so that'll be wrapped up.
Yeah.
I think Bad Batch and a lot of those other things like Bad Batch and therefore the initiated who like that specific content, that is not for everybody. That is like for a smaller group. So I'm glad that like the Acolyte, I feel like will go after a broader group of people. Like I don't need to know everything.
I mean, much like OT stuff and stuff that comes like even Mando or Boba Fett is for us OG Star Wars fans, the people who grew up with the Clone Wars, my kids or even your son, even though he's not a Star Wars guy, but Mark, that age bracket, right? And Mark, exactly, because Mark's 10 years younger than us, they gobble up that because Filoni was there, that was there was late aughts, so it was like 2008 or 9 is when the Clone Wars came out, and it just lit a generation on fire. And people who love the prequels or grew up with the prequels, so that's okay. But this is great because this tends, I think,
it's 4 quadrant, Charlie.
It's four quadrants of Star Wars. You've got angry nerds, happy nerds, sporadic female nerds, and aliens. New nerds. Yeah, exactly.
There you go. That's what you need. Yeah.
Well, speaking of old nerds, we did have a passing in the nerd world. We touched this on Code 47 as well, but Kirstie Alley has passed away. She actually broke onto the scene in 1982 as Cadet Lieutenant Saavik in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, Spock's protege. She played that role in that film, and in subsequent films, the role was handed over to another actress. But she then went on to because of the cocaine, mostly. And I think she and like most female co-stars of Star Trek slept with William Shatner. Sorry, this is just something I heard.
Man,
yeah, really? I know. I mean, all the way up to and including Kim Cattrall and Iman, there were rumors about that in Star Trek VI, and he was old.
I hope there was no casting couch in Star Wars or Star Trek.
Yeah, no, just his in his trailer. But anyway, she then went on to have a very long stint on his super successful sitcom Cheers as Rebecca, who was the love interest to Sam Malone, Ted Danson's character.
Quick question, Charlie.
Yeah,
did you like Diane or Rebecca better?
I like Diane better because she was obnoxious. She insisted upon herself. Okay. I thought she was the best part of what was some really clunky, because April and I watched the first couple of seasons of Cheers with Diane, and she was so obnoxious but still found Sam irresistible, even though he was alpha male and she was all prim and proper and stuff. So, but you know what? In fairness, didn't get to watching the Rebecca episode, so maybe I would like that better. But
see, I always liked Rebecca. I thought Rebecca was hot. I thought Shelley Long was
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
I never found her that hot. I didn't like, okay, why would Sam Malone want her except for the fact it's a challenge versus I'm really like, I don't find you that attractive. I don't know. I liked her so much better. I thought she was sharp, cutting, and then, you had some interesting characters brought on with that. But I was the era that I liked of Cheers the best.
She does say in here that she was offered the third one, meaning Star Trek 3. And she said it was a half-assed offer. The character was going to be a lot bigger and a lot more going on, but they wanted to pay me less, which just sounds insane. So
you got a cocaine problem.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug, and we should be a little nicer because she died, but we're not. She had a stint. Look Who's Talking with John Travolta, a couple of movies, and then she was on Veronica's Closet in the '90s. Remember that? We used to. Oh yeah. We used to poke fun at that because that whole movie they sat around, that whole show, all they just wear lingerie all the time. That was the whole show.
And she wore house coats.
Yeah, and she wore house coats.
She was like the mod of that show.
Right. Her most recent turn was on The Masked Singer earlier this year, where there's a photograph at the bottom of this. She's with, I think, Nick Cannon. She is wearing she looks like one of the characters on Star Trek Prodigy, who's a big pink rock monster.
I watched the first season of that show. It's really entertaining. It's really fun just to go like, who is that person? Totally get it. I mean, the fact that I didn't know she had this health problem. She was a Scientologist, and they are, unfortunately, part of the thing is they don't deal with traditional medicine. So hopefully it was something that, hopefully it could have been something that could have been easily early detected versus if it wasn't. But I wanted to say, like, some of my roles with her, Charlie, really a cool movie that I would love to rewatch because I haven't seen it since I was a kid, was Runaway. Do you remember Runaway?
Okay. I don't think so.
Okay. So Runaway was a Tom Selleck sci-fi film.
Yes. Somebody did say, oh, you got to watch this. And I did. It was probably within the last 10 years or maybe a little further back.
I haven't seen it in 40 years. Early 80s, where this group of police force was tracking down like rogue AI or robotics. Very cool.
Oh my God.
Gene
Yes,
Simmons was the bad guy, and she was kind of like, so I think that was really cool where I was first really introduced her. Obviously, I saw the Wrath of Khan too, but she had a more prominent role in that movie. Summer School, I loved that movie.
Oh, yeah, with a young Mark Harmon. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, a movie she was in that I rewatched, I realized I'd never seen it, was Village of the Damned, which was one of Chris
I've
Reeve's
never
last
seen that
movies.
movie.
Yeah, we just watched it because it was the same thing. Hadn't watched it. So within the last like 2 or 3 years, we watched that. Yeah. I thought that was and that was a John Carpenter. Yeah. So it was kind of along that line.
I got to put that on my list to watch then. So I should do that.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
She was, go ahead.
I was going to say another movie that was really fun. John Larroquette and her were both in a movie called Madhouse.
Yes.
Very good comedy, just really solid. And it was better than it really should have been. And then lastly, the last movie I will say definitely worth watching, and it's kind of like very famous in Minnesota, is Drop Dead Gorgeous, where it's all about a beauty pageant in like Minnesota, North Dakota.
And Shatner's in that one too. Yeah,
exactly. And it's Denise Richards and Kristen Dunst. It's a hilarious movie.
And Sandy Bullock is the star, and she made a couple of them, didn't she?
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, and then she was also in Scream Queens season 2. Was perfect in that. A good foil for Jamie Lee Curtis. So highly recommend those things. You know, I feel bad that she was tarnished because of Scientology, but God, she's so good.
She did come out as a strong anti-vaxxer and as a Trump supporter in the last few years, as I understand it. So much so that when I mentioned, I shared the link with my mom, and she was like, she was a big anti-vaxxer. And Mark and I were talking last time we recorded Holocron. It was earlier this week, and she passed away this past Monday. And Mark said, "Is it bad that the very first thing I thought of is the fact that she was a MAGA hat?" I'm like, Mark's a Canadian. And I'm like, but that is how we tend to think of celebrities for these big outspoken political opinions. And, you're right. It's unfortunate that's the turn that it took.
Yeah. But it's funny though. We've talked about that. It's almost like there's certain celebrities, you kind of know where they probably fit in that world, but they're smart enough to shut up.
Right. Exactly.
Like Kurt Russell. I don't know where he stands. He could have the worst views in the world, but he doesn't say shit. And that's good because then he's like, it's not going to risk my career.
Right. I can continue to be employable. Exactly correct. So, anyway, rest in power, Kirstie Alley. Moving on. I snagged 2 Star Trek stories, and I didn't even put this one in Holocron. This is a bonus. Or Holocron in Code 47. But I did talk about Kirstie. But yeah,
we got synergy, Charlie. It's cross audiences.
We do. But, excuse me, we are just a couple of months away from the 3rd and final season of Star Trek Picard. And let me tell you, as not only a Star Trek content creator, but as someone who is a lifelong Star Trek fan, I am effing terrified of season 3 of Star Trek Picard.
Why, Charlie? Because the first 2 seasons were totally great.
Oh my! I mean, season 1 was a mixed bag. Yes. Season 2 was a fucking train wreck. It was, and Kay and I broke it all down as it was happening. They literally threw spaghetti against the wall to see what stuck, and it was, the story was absolutely all over the place. But now this is and it's funny, Star Trek's done this. They're supposed to be giving us a proper farewell, a love letter to the fans for the outro of the Star Trek The Next Generation characters, the last of which was in 2002, Star Trek Nemesis, which Katie and Peter and I ripped apart a few weeks ago because it was anything but. And just like the last episode of Star Trek Enterprise, which was a love letter to the fans, was anything. Like, they made it one thing and it was total garbage. So this storyline is said to bring back the entire TNG cast together. They're going to fight a villainous character played by Amanda Plummer, who is an actress who you have heard of. But what's interesting is that her father, the late Christopher Plummer, was the villainous Klingon in Star Trek VI. I didn't really realize that. But anyway, the news is that we got an image this week of Michael Dorn as Worf, the first time he's been seen in the role in 25 years since the end of Star Trek. In 20 years. No, he was in Nemesis.
He was Nemesis as well. Yeah,
so,
that's right.
So this is our first time seeing both him, Dr. Crusher, and Geordi since, and because we've seen Picard and Troy and Riker, or Picard, Troy, and Riker. We've seen them in the show so far, but we get this great image of him. And like I said, leather is the fashion. We're now in the 25th century because we're in the year, I think 2403 or something. Stuff is going on, and Worf is in leathers, man. He's got a kind of a weird, like, star. I don't know if this is a casual outfit, but he's wearing a comm badge, a Starfleet comm badge. So he's back in Starfleet. He's wearing his baldric. And then if you scroll down, and he looks great. They didn't mess with his makeup. He's got his big bushy eyebrows. He's got his big long hair. He's got a big white beard. He's like evil Klingon Santa Claus.
Is he still rocking the ponytail?
I believe he is. Yeah.
Old guy should do.
Absolutely right. Yeah, he's listening to the Doobie Brothers and smoking a doobie. But it's funny. You scroll down and you see everybody complains how Starfleet uniforms change like every 5.5 seconds. Every episode has a different uniform. So the
Charlie,
Starfleet
you thrive on that though, because like,
I do.
More uniforms to wear. Because
I do, and then I reach out to my uniform vendor. I'm like, "What do you got for me? What do you got?" I'm like, "I'm Tyrone Biggums of uniforms." I'm like, "Got any more uniforms?"
So you don't want to see what Charlie would do for a Star Trek uniform.
You don't really.
Pretty sad.
It's worse than a Klondike bar. But Worf's uniform here, now they're going with leather jackets, stylized with just, so it's a jacket and black pants. Man, it's gonna be an easy outfit. But I am super duper terrified for this season because it will either give us exactly what we wanted, redeem the crappiness of the series so far, redeem Nemesis and make it go away, or it will just make it worse. So it's either a Band-Aid rip or someone stomps on your leg and breaks it. Those are your two choices.
I agree, Charlie, because I like the concept. It's just been like, we're going to spend like 8 of the 9 episodes and just squander those experiences. And like, we're going to solve everything and drop some bombs. And then I'm like, what is that? But
really, burn all your bridges.
Hopefully this will be good. But
right.
I think everybody under the sun would love more time with the other characters of TNG. There's no reason why they couldn't. But I mean, obviously this is Picard. He's getting old. Totally get it. I mean, Patrick Stewart should be able to rest and have some time. But Worf, all the other characters, I think people would be more than happy to have them have more adventures.
Totally.
Why not?
I mean, yeah, and I guess it really depended on what happens. Like, they have Geordi coming back. They've already established that his character went on in Starfleet, and he is a Commodore now. So he's in the Admiralty. Riker is a semi-retired captain. We saw him in season 1. And Troy is retired from Starfleet. We don't know what Crusher's deal is, but she's out there kind of kicking ass and taking names. And Worf is in Starfleet, but he's a captain, but he identifies himself as a pacifist. So why is he a pacifist? He's Worf, the most badass Klingon warrior of all time. What's going on? So there's definitely some intrigue, a lot of questions to be answered. And the good news is, obviously, we're going to be breaking this down on Code 47 as it comes out.
I want my wacky Star Trek Police Academy, like sitcom, goofy sex antics, and we have Worf as the commandant.
Oh,
that would be perfect.
Will it be him at the podium like it was Commandant?
And we get Barclay as like his underling or something, like the goofy one that like goes into the Blue Oyster or whatever it's called.
Oh my God. The thing that terrifies me about this is that when this comes out, I'm going to see the first, I think maybe the second episode, and then April and I are gone gone on the Star Trek crew. So
there will be no Wi-Fi, no access to content on that ship, Charlie.
I mean, there should be because we're there with Star Trek people. But I'm actually handing over the reins of Code 47 to Katie. For an episode, I'm going to teach her. She's going to host. She's going to record. She's going to edit. She's going to post. So just like you handed reins over to me, which was a learning experience, I now get to pass that along because we're here at SFU. We're growing. We got big plans in 2023, and this is just a piece of it. So anyway, Star Trek Picard bows on the Paramount Plus on February 16 of 2023. So check it out.
Excellent. Well, that is it for the news this week. Now it's time, folks, for us to go to our favorite geek establishment. But before we do that, Charlie, give us the ad read.
Support for Secret Friends Unite is brought to you by Manscaped. Who is, I think this is weird verbiage, who is the best in men's, who are the best in men's below the waist grooming?
Is that a question or is it imperative?
It's not a question for me. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 6 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code SFU at manscaped.com. Todd, as I've said, I crunched the numbers. You gave me an assist with this, so you gave me a little bit of extra, but it's 12 million balls plus you, me, Mark, and your bald head. So that's 17. Isn't that 17?
No, 12 million and 7.
12 million and 7. I knew there was a 7 in there. Anyway, very exciting stuff over there at manscaped.com. 20% saving and worldwide shipping with the code SFU.
Yes, remember, folks, Santa Balls is checking his list. He's checking it twice, trying to see who's groomed and who's not. Do that. You've got 2 more weeks until Christmas if you celebrate. If not, Hanukkah is still in the mix. Ramadan, Kwanzaa, anybody celebrating the facial hair, ladies who want to trim up other pieces of their accoutrement. Yes. Please do check it out. Merry Christmas from Manscaped and SFU.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting in the Geek Easy, cover bands playing, drinks are poured, and we are ready to get our nerd on. So now it's time for all the things we've actually been watching and reading in the world of nerd. Yeah, so Charlie, you saw a movie. I did too.
I did, and it was much like your movie, which I saw last week. It's not nerd per se, but my movie at least has its roots in something that became very nerdish. We saw the Fablemans, which, as I go on to read about it, is almost a shot-for-shot retelling of the life story of Steven Spielberg. It was because, the first thing April always does is because we saw this on Thursday night or maybe we saw it on Friday night. She's always looking stuff up on her phone as we're driving home. But yeah, Steven's, in the film, the family is the Fablemans as opposed to the Spielbergs. The dad is an electrical engineer who works his way up and ends up moving the family across the country.
Paul Dano, right?
Yeah, it's Paul Dano. He's an electrical engineer who eventually ends up at 3M, inventing, some of the first, important circuit boards and stuff.
The 3M is a Minnesota company.
Maybe, yeah. They don't end up in Minnesota, so maybe it was something else. Yes, they are a Minnesota company because I used to rep their scrubby pads. Remember that at a past job I had. Yeah. But no, he ends up because he is a computer programmer, and his best buddy is Seth Rogen, who is barely recognizable, but the mother in the family is played by Michelle Williams. She's a little touched, suffers from depression, and you kind of find out why as the film goes by. I don't really want to spoil it to you, but yeah, the best buddy is Seth Rogen, and then there's
of the dad,
of the dad,
okay,
and very close to the mom, but Sam is the Steven Spielberg character, and you watch him from a young age, seeing his first film, which is a John Ford picture, The Greatest Show on Earth, and he watches the train crash from that movie, and he's instantly hooked for life. And so the family moves from New Jersey to Phoenix as the dad's job continues to grow. And you just really follow his life story. And, they end up in California when he's in high school, and there's a large arc around that. And, the mom kind of having an emotional breakdown, which is, sorry, that's not much of a spoiler. You can see that coming a mile away.
Yeah.
And then him, ultimately giving up his dream and then turning around and following it again. And it has an absolutely great conclusion that brings it, right back to the beginning of the movie. So I love it. It was directed by Spielberg. Big surprise. Very emotional, personal picture for him to make. It's the story of his life, but it doesn't really overindulge. It's like, it's not like Antoine Fisher, directed by Antoine Fisher, which was a skit on the Chappelle Show years ago. There are little details that are tweaked here and there that, look better on a movie screen. But from what I've read, many things in this are very to the letter what happened, and everybody in the cast was like, wow, did it really go down like this? Or they were very self-conscious because they wanted to portray something that Spielberg himself obviously lived through. So they really wanted to nail it. So yeah, it was it was exceptional. Highly recommend going to see that one. Again, it's a break. If you enjoy the kind of coming of age and the family dynamic kind of films, which I enjoy that kind of stuff, yeah, I would highly recommend it. So put it on your list in theaters now. It's been out for a few weeks, so no idea how it's doing because it's not really Spielberg necessarily his traditional genre fare, or the Indiana Jones or the Jaws or the big blockbusters, Schindler's List, or the big blockbusters he's had. But yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it, and I think this is what I'm hearing overall about. Oscar-worthy pictures are just really underperforming at the box office, and it should be a big deal because this is Steven Spielberg. He is, I mean, icons of our youth and filmography, and he is the guy that we have other people like Scorsese's and those type of filmmakers, but Spielberg is the most like mainstream and successful of those, and he still does things like Schindler's List and things like that. So the fact that if Steven Spielberg, a release from him, can't even get butts in the seats, like, are we in this mix of like getting prestige movies to get people to see? So I hope that changes, because I don't want those movies not to be made.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because you can't just make everything for Netflix and have be able to afford what's afforded to create a film like this. So yeah, no, I hear you.
Yeah. So it's a shame, but I hope it does well. And yeah, I'm hearing good things about it. And it's like you said, it's it's the most expensive therapy session in history.
Yeah, big time. So yeah, if you don't go see it in the theaters, obviously it'll end up on a streamer. So I highly recommend seeing it. Secondly, and finally, continuing to watch Fear the Walking Dead. We're almost to the end. We actually ended up in the current season, but I love the arc of the last two seasons ties back to that one shot that had to do with the submarine that I've talked about in previous episodes. That Nick Stahl was a character on there, and it was about what the zombie apocalypse outbreak looked like in a contained space and how people survived. But yeah, this current arc, you went from Colby, I want to call her Minifig because she was actually from the boys further up in our notes. I'm like, Minifig, right? I'm just going to call her Minifig. Minifig is, and she, she's a slight redheaded woman, but she was she was an incredible badass like Negan is in the main show. She was a warlord, ran her own, but it was, it
wasn't the Garbage Queen, was it?
No, it was not Jadis who ends up on the World Beyond, which was the big conglomerate besides the Commonwealth, which I described, ended The Walking Dead. I'm going to draw a blank on it's the big paramilitary organization that Julia Ormond is a character in the World Beyond. It was, oh my
God, Chocolat is Julia Ormond. Oh my
goodness. She had to kill Johnny Depp to take over. But no, she was phenomenal. Her name was Virginia, and she ended up meeting her Wanderloo. But her story, she had a younger sister who was actually her daughter, who survived and was also equally bad. And then that leads us into the next phase of the show with, I know I kind of teased it because we saw it at the end of the submarine one shot. The next big bad, like super crazy big bad, literally, is John Glover as and I never knew his backstory until I finally watched this. But the backstory of his character was he was a convicted serial killer from the 1970s. He was a mortician that was a crazy idealist who wanted to rebuild the world by grinding people up and burying, but the people he deemed unworthy, he would pump them full of formaldehyde so that they wouldn't be accepted back into the earth. It was just a real nutcase.
That's a solid plan.
Right. And one of the established characters on the show was John Dory, who ended up getting married to Jenna Elfman's character, June. John Dory died. John Dory Sr. was also a cop, the same as John Dory was played by Keith. Keith Carradine. Not Keith Carradine, the other Carradine. There's Keith Carradine. There was the guy who was
Carradine?
John Carradine. Yeah, there was Kung Fu, and then there was John. So John Carradine was John Dory Sr. Now he's a character. He's the guy who put the serial killer way back in the 70s. So obviously when the society collapsed, the serial killer gets loose. He starts up again. He builds a cult. And he stumbles upon Nick Stahl after he escapes from the submarine. Well, the submarine washed up on the shore in Galveston, Texas with all its nukes. So, so season 6 ends with the big plan is that, John Glover's character, Teddy, wants to launch all the nukes and nuke the world so that we can start over again. He only manages to get one of them off, but it nukes a big old piece of Texas. And,
one is probably too many.
Well, the thing is, when the missile goes off, he says, well, that one missile has 10 warheads. I'm like, oh, we're fucked. So it does. It nukes Galveston. And we see at the end of season 6, all of our characters split off into like one group of characters takes refuge in the sub, another one
not like their atoms were split off because of
exactly.
Warhead.
They all managed to. Well, it's funny because Morgan, who is a character from the original show, and his female companion hide under a truck, and they're far enough from the fallout that the winds come over, but it doesn't knock the truck over, and they survive and get back. I know. So it's weird. So the beginning of season 7 is your
nuclear fallout can't get under trucks. By the way, folks.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's stop, drop, and roll, duck and cover. Yeah. So anyway, the show is interesting where, again, Todd, when the show started, it was even I thought, oh, this is not very interesting. And I know you never watched it, but it does take a nice turn by introducing new, interesting characters, bringing in some characters from the other show and making them kind of more pivotal. So I'm enjoying the show. I'm kind of bummed out that we're in the last season, which I watched the first portion of, and then I dropped off. April watched the rest. So we'll have watched all of it. But I think that show is the next thing to come back. So it'll probably be in the first half of 2023. So anyway, I'm looking forward to it. Todd, I know you're not looking for another show, but I will tell you that this show definitely did a turn, and I think it got better. So I recommend it. Again, the first 6 seasons are on Hulu, and the most current season is on AMC Plus, which, Todd, I know you've said AMC Plus is struggling with some of the research you've done. If they don't do a streaming service anymore, do you think that content will go on to Hulu? Do you think that's where it'll end up? Like
they'll probably find a partner and sell it off. I mean, that's kind of the probably the most financially stable until cable goes away and these things where it's like they're getting ad revenue and doing that. I just don't know when that ends. I don't know. I mean, I'm hearing like streaming will overtake, or it maybe have already, traditional cable and satellite. I don't even know if it really exists in a way that we know of, because those satellites are actually going to crash into the atmosphere eventually, which
was another plot line in the original show, that a satellite fell out of the air. It's funny, I have to really bite my tongue, and again, I'm so much less active on Facebook now that I'm not on there as myself, but I'm still part of these groups, these Star Trek groups, where it's basically, I bumped into a post that's the cord cutters. Some old person saying, well, I wish I could watch it on regular TV, and I just couldn't help myself.
What is regular TV?
I'm like, there is no regular TV. Well, I won't do streaming. And I was like, good luck with that.
Exactly.
And then somebody else piped in, who's an older guy who I know as being someone in a chapter here in Michigan, not my chapter, who said, well, it would be really great if they could, make it easier for older folks to see it. And I'm like, I couldn't resist.
Talk to your grandchildren.
I'm like, that's not how marketing works. Marketing to old people works. I'm thinking works for
You're
men.
You're a dying demographic, sadly. They don't look at your demographic.
Charlie,
that's the fifth quadrant.
As
no
old people,
that.
Yeah, exactly. You know why nobody talks about it? Because not going to be there for long.
No, that's the demographic of the people that have been getting charged for the last 25 years, and every time they get an upcharge, they complain about it, but they actually don't make any changes to their capability.
Exactly,
like certain relatives of mine.
Well, great example. I saw my dad this week, so I had dinner with dad and my stepmom Michelle at their house, and I got them logged into my Vudu and logged into my Paramount Plus, and they have a Fire Stick, which I was surprised you could do Vudu on a Fire Stick, but lo
Oh
and
yeah,
behold, you can.
yeah.
I thought it was a content block because it was a competitor, but anyway, so I said, blah blah blah, He's like, well, we still have cable. I said, Dad, pick up that cable box and throw it off your balcony right now. It is
Just get
completely
if you want to replace
worthless.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I recommend
just get
YouTube
the
TV
internet.
to everybody. It's $60 a month. Get you all your locals, all your
Right.
sports, all your
But that's
news.
just the
everything.
thing. When I was talking to him, I'm like, Dad, what local news you watch? She says, I haven't watched local news in years. I don't need anything like that. I said, good. Then you know what? And this is the same advice I gave my Uncle Tim, my mom's oldest brother, who just moved back and he's looking for streaming. And I said, if I could Ramon exactly one thing to you, it would be Paramount Plus, because old
You
people
get
like CBS.
Yeah.
And my uncle's a Star Trek fan. My dad's a Star Trek
You get
fan.
some sports content.
I got my dad watching Yellowstone, which is what he wanted to watch. Now he's watching 1883, 1923 is coming up. That's his sweet spot. So you know what? Yeah, I would say, especially for that fifth quadrant, Paramount Plus is going to be your best friend. Drop cable. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I appreciate it.
If you don't need the news channels, you don't need sports. Stay away
Exactly.
from that. And let us know if anybody has any questions about this stuff. I'm pretty deep in it. Charlie is deep into other things too. Let us know. We can help your relatives.
Yeah, add us over on Twitter at TExtra, at the C3, or at Secret
Maybe
Friends
that's
U.
what I'll do, Charlie, in the future. That'll be my extra content. It'll be like your guide to streaming.
You should do that maybe once a quarter.
Yes, a few cord cutters. Yeah.
Yeah. I will go there with you because I got plenty of experience talking to old people about, particularly about Star Trek, and people who can't let go of watching Star Trek on MeTV with commercials and saying, "Oh, I just wish it was always like this."
Yep.
Oh, anyway, All right. Getting off the soapbox, it's your turn. What are you watching this week?
Well, yeah, I mean, and you couldn't talk much about the menu last week. I finally saw it, so we can actually talk a little bit more about it.
Good. Let's do it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the movie. The menu, Charlie talked about last week, but basically this is all about food snobbery, an experience where a group of 12 people go out to an island to have this food event where you pay like $1,200 per seat, and you are served so many courses by Ray Fiennes and his staff. The group of people that are there, a bunch of people that are overprivileged, jerks, oddities, has been celebrities, and potentially like big CEOs. The movie, and my lens is, I'm a foodie guy. We watch a lot of food shows. We've been to, actually, Charlie, this place in Minneapolis called Travail. It is very similar, but not as expensive as the event that this group went to, which is they're served all of these courses.
Or crazy homicidal.
But it's not cheap, but it's something that we love. We loved like food and all these courses. It was phenomenal. We loved it. We always recommend it to other people. We have friends that they are kind of snobs about food and all this stuff. I'm like, you got to not take yourself too seriously. And this movie did skewer that whole, the people that take pictures of all their food, the people that go on, I'm like, oh, did you use this type of cheese? Oh, is this type of goat? And oh, they were raised by this, and I knew his name was Bob. And so it's goofy, but what I liked about this movie is its sense of humor, the way it referenced the courses and how it showed like what was in the course and all the elements to it. And it layered on the surprises that were earlier than I expected, quite honestly, like some of the surprises. And then also it wasn't grotesque. It wasn't like, to your point, Charlie, I'm like, do they eat a person?
Sure.
That's like, is that like, so nope, they don't. And I'm like, yep, they don't eat a person, but they don't. It's like a thriller and very a tense movie to watch. So I fully enjoyed it. Yes, there were some things that we saw happening, but I really enjoyed it. I really did. Anya Taylor-Joy is she's Oddjoy. I mean, she is in everything, and she is phenomenal in everything. She's not had a bad performance.
Right, and playing to the quadrants, because she has played in genres. Has she been in a comedy though? I'm trying to think of a comedy she's been. She must have been in something,
maybe, but yeah.
But she's played in the horror genre. She's played in the comic space. She's played in the fantasy space, and she's exceptional.
Supernatural. She was in the Last
The
Night in
Witch.
Soho. I guess you
Yeah,
could call it
yeah.
Supernatural, whatever you want to call that. Yeah, she did. I mean, all those different pieces. She's done. I mean, what was it? The Queen's
The Viking.
Gambit. I mean,
Yeah, the Viking
yeah.
was the supernatural one, and yeah, she was got her. It was she Split? Was it the M Night movie? That was one of
Oh
her
yeah,
first.
that's right. She was in that. I was
Yeah,
like, oh, I didn't even realize that. Yeah, so she is a treasure. And I will tell you, Nicholas Holt, he is great in this, and you'll
yeah,
hate him. Is all I'll say.
yeah.
You'll hate him. Oh my god.
But that's acting, right? Because
Oh
again,
yeah.
he typically plays, and he was a child actor who's gone on to be successful. He was, he was Beast in that later gen of X-Men
Mhm.
films, and he was
Yep.
a great add to it. But yeah, he got his start. Was it Notting Hill? Wasn't he a little boy in Notting Hill,
I
or
think so. Yeah.
some Hugh Grant film in the
Yeah.
90s, early aughts, and he was 8, 12 years old or something. So yeah, he's been working, and he's not gone off the rails like Macaulay Culkin or anything like that.
Mhm.
He's just continuing to crank it out. So yeah, Rafe Fiennes, John Leguizamo made an appearance in this movie,
yeah.
which
He was
you
great.
don't see, you just don't see him in a ton of stuff anymore. But yeah, he was great. And
Yeah.
trying to think who else.
Judith
was in it that
Light.
was
I
hilarious.
mean,
Judith
she
Light,
played
yes, yeah.
a very minor role, but still, I mean,
Right.
acting her ass off. I mean, and that's what I
Right.
like this movie. I felt like people were really giving it their all. And Ray Fiennes,
Right.
I mean, that dude. I mean, he should be in more things. I mean, we talk about
Yeah.
guys that just or actors that just like, wow, they are so
Right.
commanding in their presence,
Right.
and absolutely loved it. And yeah, I just love the movie. It's
Yeah.
good. It's a good
Chef's kiss in the
coming
flick.
out at the right time, getting out of
Right.
the way of things, and it's a good movie to see. But I highly recommend it. So I don't know if this one will be in theaters anytime soon, but go see
Out
it.
out of theaters, you mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so that on streaming, you mean? So you don't know? Yeah,
exactly.
we don't really know it's faded. I guess it depends on who made it. If
And it's not the
you know,
type of movie you have to see it on a big screen.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, but
It's not a big blow up. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But I'm glad it's getting some attention, making its money back. So that's really good. And then Charlie, I watched Willow. This is the new Disney Plus series, and I think we've all talked about this around the league. I feel like, and I think you even called out in the article, like Bob Iger now says, we need less content, but better content. And we're seeing this in Disney Plus. A lot of the
Mhm.
Disney Plus content, like Disenchanted, what is it, Hocus Pocus 2, and Santa Clauses, they all feel like a CW. They're starting to feel like CW level, not premiere. They're just more content. You put it out there. It's like Netflix.
Right.
Some is good, some it's okay, but you don't feel like this stuff is made because it's for a reason, like a creative reason. It feels like it's just
Right.
put out there.
Right.
And
fill it up.
yeah, and I was so hopeful, and I've heard things about Willow, and I will say this: the first 2 episodes aren't great, and maybe it'll change. But as of right now, I feel like this feels like fantasy done on the cheap compared
Yeah.
to Game of Thrones. I want Disney to make a
Oh.
Game of Thrones level $500 million. This feels like it
Sucks
was made
in.
This feels like it was made in Vancouver on a CW lot. It really does.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it's not spinning off of a stellar reputation of something that everybody
No.
loved. Let's not forget the Goldbergs episode where the main character, whose name Adam Goldberg, goes to see it, and he's like, "Oh man, this is George Lucas's follow up to Star Wars. I'm gonna love this. It's gonna be just like it." And
Yep.
he's just absolutely crestfallen walking out of it because
It's a Willow.
it's what it was.
It's a Willow, as you could say.
So, it leaves me head scratching that for something that has no real legacy. And again, Todd, Willow made by your favorite director,
Ron Howard. Thank
oh
you.
my God.
He's apparently, he gets executive producer credits in this.
Yeah.
So does George
Hashtag-
Lucas, because it says
Hashtag Todd vs. Ron Howard. Let's start that tag on Twitter.
Yeah, me
Oh, my
versus
God.
Opie Cunningham. Yeah.
Opie Cunningham. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, thank you for confirming what I suspected anyway.
Well-
fantasy is not my jam, so I didn't have a big intention to check this out. But if you're telling me that it sucks, makes me feel better
Well,
about
I'm 2
not being
episodes in,
interested.
and I'm not going to say, because they've got a lot to prove, because how many people are aware of what Willow even was? So I'm not going to give this a rating yet. And I did see things that could make it better. But one of the things that drove me nuts in this, Charlie, and when you deal with genre, or you deal with something where it's in a land far away or things like that, and you've got accents. I get it. You can go in British, whatever, or go all in on it, whatever it
Right.
is. But when you've got 3 of the main younger cast, which are speaking American versus
Right.
everybody else, which are British, it's like, why? I don't understand. It takes me out of it. And it's
Right.
like, it's dumb, it's bad, and some of the things felt a little too modern in their take versus everybody else. It's like almost like everybody else is doing their own thing. You do get what's her name from Han Solo, the Nefestness.
Oh, Aaron Kellyman.
Yes,
She was the flag smasher in Cap Winter Soldier.
Yes. So she's in it, and she's pretty good. She plays it pretty straight.
Yeah.
But you get like the 2 siblings of Shorsha, who is the princess who married Mad Mardigan. That's the whole thing. This is a direct sequel. Mad Mardigan is not found because Val Kilmer is obviously not in good health. He essentially has gone away, and then we find out that the evil forces are rallying and coming back. And this is all about Alora Dannon now, who is the baby protected in the original Willow, is now of age, and she's the only one that can protect people. So, but I will tell you, Warwick Davis is great. And I don't know how that man has not gotten more roles, because he's perfect in anything, regardless of his stature. The fact that he has not been, it's a crime. But that's why I'm thinking there, and I do like some of the other characters in this. And it's funny because I'm blanking on his name from the new Spider-Man films, Flash Thompson.
I know the guy you're talking about. Yeah. I don't remember his name either.
And I do like the fact that he's playing a character that I think there's gonna be something more with him. Some of the other characters, there's gonna be more with them. So they do bring back some of the heritage characters, but not many. I'm hopeful that this is only the first 2 episodes. Maybe it's rocky and it gets better. So I'll continue to watch. But
is it all out? Because is it a Netflix?
No,
so
it's the first 2 dropped. Then they're doing 1 a week.
Oh, okay. Yeah, which is, again, everybody but Netflix really follows that model because,
exactly.
And we talked about it over in Holocron, obviously, with Andor, which is also Disney, is that, and you've said it time and again, you got to keep the conversation going, and that doesn't happen if you just Stranger Things it like, oh, that's cool. Exactly. It was a big deal. It was big because they were the hardcores that watched it in the first weekend, and there's a trickle that might follow weeks to follow, and then who's talking about Stranger Things? And they won't for another 2 years. Because it's 2 years between those seasons. So there's nothing to keep the fire chugging along. So
I think that's to the show's benefit that it's not dropped all at once, because I think a lot of people would fall off after the first 2 episodes. So I think it becomes a scenario to get people to say each episode's like, oh, there were good things and it can grow. Right. And I think shows need that. Shows need some help to get people to watch it, or you get like shows that just get canceled because I watched the first one, didn't love it. And I'm like, how many shows? And we always talk about it. How many great shows had a first great episode or a second episode? They don't. They need to see growth and evolution of those characters.
No, it's so rare. And, even Andor, and again, I know you fell off Andor, but I found the first 3 episodes to be a snore.
To get decent. And then,
which is why they dropped them all at once. And then the next week, it started to climb, and it maybe it was 1 step forward, 2 steps back. But anyway, well, cool. Well, I look forward to you potentially enjoying it. But if it doesn't get any better, you know what? You gave it a try.
And maybe I'll find something like, I think you might like this show. I will say they do a cool job at the end credits with some cool music. Like they did the Hurdy-Gurdy Man, which I thought was cool at the second episode, which is kind of cool. Yeah, because I think you can really pair like fantasy with like rock and roll at times. It works well. Right. So we'll see if that is a thing that I
like Thor and the Immigrant Song. Oh, man.
Absolutely.
Well, cool. Well, that takes us out of the news. And speaking of pairing things, I like to pair my mutants with my Thunderdome. But in order to do that, we got to catch that Air Qantas flight. We got to get down to the land down under. They're waiting for us. Tina's waiting for us. Let's get over to the Thunderdome.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
Thank you, Tina. We're sitting in the Thunderdome, where the mutants have been gathered for a topic or a game to be entertained. And this week, we decided that we're going to talk a little bit about this DC stuff, because it's more than just a news story. It's kind of a change in focus of a whole media company when it comes to DC. Charlie, you've posted some stories. I've posted some stories. A lot of it's unconfirmed, not confirmed. So I thought we could break it down to say, and the reason I picked the story is because our friend Jonathan Sear, original Secret Friends Unite founder, in our college dorm, said he's kind of burned out on all of these comic book films. And I feel him because it feels like they've been kind of since 2008, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've gotten kind of a lot of the same. And unless there's a big end game, you kind of feel like, what am I waiting for? And now there's TV in the mix as well that all interlinks. And it kind of feels like, is it too much? People feel disconnected. It feels like they're getting worn out.
Right.
And is it time for a change?
And like you said, an Endgame on the Marvel side is a great example. And part of me really agrees with John on this, that Endgame was the end game for the fever pitch, for the must see, got to go see it first weekend. I can't be spoiled or whatever it is of the Marvel world, because films that came out subsequently were kind of lackluster. I know Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever was a bright spot. Some of the shows have been a bright spot, but some of them absolutely have not. And that's Marvel. That's the juggernaut. They may be in a rebuilding year and they may be leading us to different things, but DC is a totally different animal. They've got the three facets with the films, with the live action television, and then the animated television, which is also films and TV. And I would say not that there's zero connectivity, but the connectivity is very few and far between. They're telling stories about the Flash on TV. They're trying to tell stories about the Flash in the movies, and that's somewhat endemic to that universe because of the Speed Force and the different dimensions.
There's been two Flashes. There's actually been multiple Flashes. There's been multiple Green Lanterns. Multiple, Superman and Wonder Woman largely haven't changed. There's been one Batman. So it's a weird mix. And DC is now going on. 1938, essentially, think about that's the launch of DC. So the fact is, that's a hard level to maintain relevancy with brands and heroes and things like that. Totally get that. So what we're going to do, maybe we'll do a Marvel one in the future, but at least with DC, where the future of DC lands and where they're going is going to be very interesting. So we've got, a couple weeks ago, James Gunn and Peter Safran announced as the head of DC Studios.
The co-captains, yes.
This will incorporate everything DC that you watch, read, which is they're going to bring in comics, Charlie. Marvel has not linked their comics to the movies. They've said,
that
you do
is
what
correct.
you want to do.
It's big. Right.
And they're also going to do games as well. So this is watching, reading, playing. All of that.
This is analogous to the Lucasfilm Continuity Group in Star Wars.
Yes.
So this is going to be, I went to go see a Superman movie, but the backstory of this villain is happening in the comics, or between Superman movie number 1 and Superman movie number 2, he's got an ongoing series, and everything that happens in the ongoing series is canon between movies 1 and 2. That is big.
That is scary.
Big. So they're doing a crisis level reboot, is what you're telling me.
It sounds like it, and we've talked about this. So essentially, you're hearing this and saying, well, what does that mean? So essentially, you've got CW, they're wrapping up. So the Flash's final season on CW is wrapping up. It's ending. Outside of that, you've got Lois, Superman and Lois,
which is great. April and I enjoyed it.
But I think that's also ending with this season too.
Right.
I think it's just going to tie out. So get rid of that, and then it's going to be anything essentially that you think of that's in the can and complete DC films that are coming out. So I think what we're going to get is, from what I understand, what they're going after, because the worst thing you do as a creator is have to worry about what the legacy is and having to tie everything together. So I think at this point, we've got coming up, we've got Aquaman 2. That's coming. It's done. So that will come out. We've got
Flashpoint.
The Flashpoint, which we talked about as well, and Shazam. Those are the three main movies. Now, apparently Blue Beetle's there, but Blue Beetle's is essentially a new character that maybe it's done in a way that it's not connected to anything. So it's a character that can maintain. And James Gunn actually tweeted that out.
Yeah, or like Joker, because we just got some stills of the Joker sequel. But again, it's unconnected. It takes place in the past. But yeah, the biggest pieces of this news, and I think this was the bit that I shared, is that Patty Jenkins and Gal Gadot and Wonder Woman, that a third film in that franchise is not happening. And despite all the bluster of Dwayne Johnson and Black Adam and saying, I'm the future of DC, that is not happening.
No.
He's not the future of anything. It's kind of Splitsville, USA. So this is I mentioned this from time to time, an expression I grew up hearing from my dad, who, our family business was photography and 1 hour photo back in the 80s. When you clean a printing machine, you do a dump and scrub. You dump out all the chemicals, you clean the machine, and you fill it again. Sounds like to me, DC is doing a dump and scrub. We're going to take all the dirty processing bits that we had to print to clean, to develop this film, and then to print the pictures, and we're dumping it all out. We're putting fresh stuff in. That's the vibe that I get. And I got to tell you, as someone who is not a DC hardliner, we talked about this in the pre-roll, I've always been a Marvel guy. I always will be a Marvel guy. And for us folks who are lifers, because Todd, you and I have been in this comic biz since we were, in short pants, knee high to a grasshopper, since we were, I've been reading comics since I was 6 years old, but always Marvel. And maybe a He-Man, maybe a Mask, maybe a, DC superpowers in there, but always Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and then I discovered The Amazing Spider-Man when I was 10, and so I've always been with Spider-Man. But as far as the DC characters, I was exposed to them through Super Friends, the cartoon that was on from the early 70s to about 1985, but it never got me to read the comics because I was just, I don't know. They didn't have Star Wars, they didn't have Indiana Jones, and that was my childhood. And then watching what DC has put out on the big screen since we're really post Nolan, because again, the Nolan films, which were from 2005 to 2012. So the thing after that was really kind of started the DCU run, because it was Man of Steel, which you and I are one of the few people that we really dug it. We really thought that was a good direction, but that was not.
It's 75% of a good film.
75%, which what? That's more than half. That's
Absolutely.
3/4. That's not bad. But if you look at 2013 to now, we're batting like a 80-20, I would think, with what I consider to be decent cinematic content from DC.
Yeah. I mean, there are fans of those characters,
absolutely.
that realm, which I get, but you've had a long stretch of it. I totally get it. Gal Gadot has been in 4 films as Wonder Woman. That is more than a lot of people get to be in. And
because if you look at it, like, Chris Hemsworth had 4 Thor movies, and that was the biggest one. Or Tom Holland has had 6 appearances, I think, as Spider-Man, or 5 or 6. Yeah, so that's a lot, because 3 seems to be the magic. It was that way. Captain America was in a bunch of films, had 3 films of his own, but 4 was a big run, because the Superman only had the 1 standalone film, and then there was BVS, which was between the 2 of them. So.
Yeah,
but that was a wreck, and Justice League was a wreck. I mean, you have a hard time convincing me otherwise that much of what happened after Man of Steel, the 75% good, was truly exceptional. Shazam, I really liked. I'm drawing a blank on that. Wonder Woman itself, the 2017, liked it. But the sequel was trash. I thought everybody feels that way that I know. I don't know anybody who lauds that film. I don't know. So for me, I guess, being an outsider, so even, kind of standing back in the line with what John is saying, I'm really welcome to a DC continuity Star Wars-like universe where everything touches and we're starting over. You can pick up if you love the first Superman movie we put out and you want more, boom. Action Comics and Superman it's all looks like whoever we cast as Superman, that's what the guy in the comics looks like. Or, Batman is, whatever, they're going to start that over again. I don't know. So, I mean, Todd, you're the lifer with DC. You read them growing up. I know you love, I like Green Lantern. I know you really love Green Lantern. Where are you with this?
This is a must. You have to do something different. I get it. The Snyderverse fans are a passionate lot, but they're small. They are not the mainstream, the four quadrants. You need to get back there with DC. I don't want to hamstring creators to say it has to be in this realm, but it's better than what we got right now, where it's like you said, point, Charlie. You read a comic book with Superman in it. I don't know who Superman is these days. What's he doing? He's 18 children. It's hard. You really need to make these characters evergreen in a way that's friendly to readers, has elements that prior readers can really enjoy as well, and just it invites everyone to enjoy the characters, and that's been missing. They haven't nailed the lightheartedness of DC. It's always had to be dark to that's what you see, and that's just wrong. A good writer and people that like James Gunn has made lightheartedness part of his brand. He also does the crazy stuff. He has a good
Right.
balance of it, and I think he's
Totally.
a good person to say what is the heart of these characters and what do we do to make them important to people now and in the future. So as much as we've got the Flashpoint movie, the Flash movie that is Flashpoint essentially, we've said that we're worried about that one. I think that's the reason why that movie still exists. It's to basically start everything over. It's basically saying, we get you, and we may bring back some of those characters from the past, but we're moving on. We don't
Right.
have to feel like we have to be tied to those previous creators' ideas. We talk about canon and continuity. Canon is somebody's great idea that then ties everybody's hands to the future
Right.
excellence. So I don't want that. I want us to say, what would these characters be? We've got with DC, they did it with a great job with the Golden Age to the Silver Age, where you got like Barry Allen to Wally West. You got Alan Scott to Hal Jordan. I want that again with DC. And I think if we can get there, then people will not have to say, I don't like DC because they're so dark. I don't want to ever hear that again. I want a kid to watch a Superman film and feel like Superman is a hero and he makes me feel
Right.
good and he's going to save us. Batman, yes, he does crazy things, but he can team up with Superman and do these things. I don't know how they do it.
Right.
That's a hard thing to do. I'm not
Right.
sure if the current Batman with Robert Pattinson, I don't know how he can then be brought in to team up with a Superman. That seems a
Right.
bridge too far because
Right.
yes, you can make him the smartest man in the world, but if he has a hard time taking down street thugs, yes, I know he doesn't have to beat up like Mongol or
Darkseid. Yeah. Right.
But Ben Affleck was that more of that Batman. He could do
Right.
those things that felt better with the Justice League. So I'm curious how they balance it, but that's what we need. And I'm willing to sacrifice everything we've got currently in the DC universe to go on. And maybe you say we can still bring back some of the characters like Gal Gadot can be a Wonder Woman, but maybe not that Wonder Woman. That's
Right.
cool. Or Jason
And-
Momoa is no longer Aquaman. He can be
Yeah.
Lobo. That's cool too. I don't care.
Yeah.
Just make it better.
Zach as Shazam is one of the brighter spots they've got. So it would be a shame if that went away. But like you said, not at the expense of, you can't, it's the needs of the, it's the needs of the many. If the needs of the many are, well, everything but Shazam sucks, or, Jason Momoa and his sweater sniffers sucks. Then yeah, it's time to, I mean, I'm a canon and a continuity guy, but that's not right for everybody. But if that's the direction that they're going in, and we don't really have a say in it because that's what the creative muckety mucks are doing, and if we believe and we trust in James Gunn because we're so exuberant with his body of work to date, I'd like to believe that there's better things ahead. Because that's what was always lacking with DC versus Marvel. There was no big Feige. Nobody was driving the bus.
Oh.
You had a guy who would, DC was an Uber where Marvel was a chartered bus. There you go. Somebody was driving it. You knew what was going on, as opposed to some rando who was picking you up from the bar at 2:00 in the morning. That's what DC was. DC was your random Uber. There you go. There's your name for the episode.
I do worry though about the whole. We got to tie in video games. We got to tie in the comics. I don't want to, and I always said about the MCU, I don't want to hamstring storylines because you can't use something. Like we talked about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I felt Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. felt so hamstrung because we can't use anybody, but it's still connected. I'm like, no, you're getting the impact of it, but you're not driving any stories forward. I don't want that either. So I'm not 100% awesome on everything connecting from comics to everything like that, because if a creator's got a great story, and maybe this is how they manage it, they'll be like the Elseworlds. And
Right.
I'm cool with that because some of the best comic stories in the world are Elseworlds.
Well, those are the ones that, for me, really as a non-DC stalwart, found the most successful. I
Yeah.
love one of my favorites, and I don't have it because it's not digitally, and I think it just came back into print. Was that Batman Superman Generations, where they aged in real
Mhm.
time from the 40s to present day and even the distant future. Love that story because you got to watch. Clark Kent had a son with no superpowers that died in Vietnam. You know what I mean? So it's like you get to watch. Oops, sorry, spoiler. But it was a John Byrne story, and John Byrne is one of my favorite creators. So I really dug on that. But even Gotham by Gaslight, or the Vampire
Superman,
Batman.
Red Sun.
Yeah.
Red
Red Sun's a great story. Yeah, exactly. The Superman for All Seasons, I think, was another one. But yeah, no, I dug it. So yeah, the Elseworld, but still to have a 1 foot in, kind of one toe in the big picture, because that's what was lacking, was a big picture. So we'll see. I mean, anything that they're going to produce is obviously at least a year away. They're not going to crank something out magically.
No, we won't see their impact truly until 2024, 2025, because these movies are coming out 2023 that I said are already in the can. The 2024 are going to be probably maybe The Batman and Joker 2, which we've got more information coming about that. Beyond that, maybe 2025 is the earliest we see beyond like shows on HBO Max, like the Suicide Squad or Peacemaker too. So we'll see.
Oh gosh, Peacemaker's so great. I look forward to that. Well, cool. Well, that's about it, eh?
Absolutely. Yeah, we covered the DC, and at this point, DC Films is what they're calling it. But if you have thoughts on that, let us know. And obviously, we get it. We don't want more of the Snyderverse crew getting in, because essentially we know where that's headed. It's not headed where we will. So you can push against it, but you won't. But if you have a different idea of where DC should head or what covers characters they should cover, let us know.
Hit us up, and that's easy to do. Because Todd, where do people find you out there on the interwebs?
T-Oxtra. This is the last week of fantasy football. I hope to make the playoffs. We'll see how that goes. Wrapping up a lot of video game stuff towards the end of the year, so you can follow my content there as well. And then I'll be talking about co-op mode, because that's coming out. We'll be recording that tomorrow, so it'll be out by Wednesday after you've listened to this podcast. It'll be there. Lee Alexander Navarro will be our guest. We're excited to hear from him in the world of PC gaming. But that's really where I'm at, and I'm getting more videos out there. Charlie just put out the Code 47 most recent episode there, so I'll get the next one out on YouTube. And more news to come out at Secret Friends Unite in 2023. We are very excited for all of that.
Yes, indeed. And it's one of our bigger weeks. We have now Code 47. Our Star Trek podcast will be out this Monday. You're listening to the show probably on Tuesday, and like you said, co-op on Wednesday. So we're bang, bang, bang. We're front ending the week for your daily drive or whatever it is. But you can find me over on Twitter at the C3. Go ahead and spell it out. Super active on our Secret Friends Unite Discord, which I love our Discord space. Man, if you are not there, jump on Discord, search out Secret Friends, and join the conversation. Lots of different channels, lots of different threads, covers all of our shows and a bunch of different geek stuff. My wife April and I run the USS Grand Petoskey, which is one of the biggest chapters of the International Star Trek Fan Club in the world, and certainly here in Michigan. I am also actually the regional coordinator for Region 13 of SFI, which covers Michigan and Eastern Canada. So if you're a Trekker who lives in any one of those places, please drop me a line over there at the Grand Petoskey website, or certainly on Facebook, or definitely on Twitter. Would love to hear from you. So that's where you find me. So friends, as always, thank you for joining us. I want to tell you that sharing is caring, and to keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In a truck.
Shazam, bitches.
He doesn't say that in the movie.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.